Hi, everybody. In this video, we deal with one of those annoying patterns, negation wide scope around some other connective. You already know how to deal with negation around a disjunction and negation around a conjunction. Now we're going to talk about negation around an arrow. So I really recommend stopping your videos and trying to do this proof yourself. It's very instructive if you haven't figured out how to do it, to struggle with it before you see the answer, because then the answer is going to make a whole lot more sense and you're going to remember it better. So I'll give you a chance to pause your videos now if you'd like. Okay, we are going to start giving you some ideas about how to solve this instead of just having me tell you. My first idea is to think about the Boolean definition of arrow. I think this is really instructive. Turn this into its primitive Boolean form, and then you can start to see how we should approach it. So remember, an arrow is just a disjunction and a negation of the antecedent. So this is the Boolean structure. If I would have given you this over here, you would have known what to do. That is just the 5-step plan. What you would do is you would assume not P, you'll get a contradiction that allows you to prove P. See, and then I would build prove not Q as well and conjoin them. So I have to be able to do something similar over here because from a logical point of view, these two things are equivalent. I've got to be able to prove P. And indeed, we do it almost the exact same way. So the proof for the arrow is going to work a whole lot like the proof in its primitive Boolean form. It's going to assume not P, and instead of building this from the inside, we're just going to build P arrow Q from the inside. That's going to be a contradiction. That's how we're going to get P, and then we just have to do something similar to get not Q as well. Now, once I point this out to you, I bet you can fill in the details. This is the 5-step plan, remember, and so there is something similar to the 5-step plan for an arrow. In that sense, negation around an arrow is actually better than negation around a conjunction. We can deal with this thing. Let me see, pause your videos now if you didn't get this previously and try to fill in this ... See what you can do. Okay, that was your chance to pause your videos. If you didn't know what to do there, you still have not internalized the lesson enough from previous videos that whenever your goal is an arrow, you always do the same thing. You assume the antecedent and you try to get to the consequent. So my new goal is this. I know that once I get this arrow, I'm going to get the contradiction with line 1. And I know once I get the contradiction, I get this by reductio. So if I can just get this thing, I'm done. So that should have told me what to do next. Let's look at the whole proof in total and work out those details. So here's my first assumption. I'm going to assume not P. Now what I do next, because I'm trying to build that arrow, is I assume P again. And I know if I can just get from here to Q, I will be done. How do I do it? Well, notice the connection between these things. There's a structural relation between them. One is the negation of the other. That allows me to introduce the contradiction symbol. And now that I've got the contradiction symbol, I can get anything I want. Why do I want Q? Because I'm trying to prove P arrow Q. That's been my plan. That's the analog to the 5-step plan for arrows. You know, since everything is more easy to remember with a handy name, I call this the contradiction trick, because I'm building this arrow by this trick of using the contradiction to get to Q. That's how I prove P arrow Q. You know, once you get P arrow Q here, that allows me to complete this reductio, and that allows me to get P. My goal all along is to first prove P, and then I'm going to prove not Q. Now, if you didn't complete the proof, pause your videos, because the proof of not Q is, again, structurally similar. The relationship between the 5-step plan is going to be the same. So pause your videos here, work it out, work out the version of the 5-step plan for the disjunction, for the Boolean form of this, if you want to, and then see how you can do something analogous. Follow the same pattern before and try to work this out yourself. You will remember this so much better if you try to do it yourself rather than just watch me do it. Okay, that was my last pep talk. Now we're gonna do the proof. Last chance to pause your videos. Now, since we're trying to do Q, not Q in this case, if we did the 5-step plan on this, we would assume Q. That would be the disjunct. The Boolean form of this negates the antecedent, but not the consequent. So we would assume Q. Again, we're trying to get to a contradiction and get this by reductio, get not Q by reductio. What are we going to get that contradiction with? It's going to be P arrow Q again. So of course we're going to assume P, and we have to get to Q. Now, instead of the contradiction, though, I don't need the contradiction because I've got Q already. I can just reiterate it. You see, in this case, I have not P, and so I have to use the contradiction. In this case, I have Q, and I can't use the contradiction. I can just use reiteration. So I call this one the reiteration trick, whereas the previous one was called the contradiction trick. The reason I did that, of course, is to get P arrow Q because that contradicts my line 1, and that finishes my reductio of Q. So here's what the entire proof looks like. All right, so the standard way to do that proof is 15 lines. This is core knowledge. You need to know how to manipulate a negation around an arrow, and this is how to do it whether you're dealing with the antecedent of the arrow or how to do it with the consequent of the arrow. Let me tell you, you might have found an even more elegant way to do this proof. So looking for shortcuts is always fun. If you want a tip as to how to look for shortcuts, here's my tip for you. Do a reductio of that conclusion, and there's actually a really beautiful way to do this proof. So pause your videos if you want. See, notice this commonality. Let me go back to the previous slide. Notice we had to do the same thing twice. We had to build this arrow intro twice. And whenever you see that kind of duplication, you should start to look for more efficient ways of doing things. Well, in this proof, we're going to get a contradiction symbol. And again, it's going to be with this thing in line 1, but you can sort of do it more elegantly. So pause your videos and see if you can figure this out yourselves. Okay, that was your chance to pause your videos. We're going to need to build P arrow Q again, just like we did in those other proofs. But now we're only going to do it once, but we have to assume P up here and get to Q. And of course, remember, we had to do a reductio of Q in the previous one. So that might again have told you to assume not Q. And once you do those two things, then you could have probably filled in the rest of your details for yourself. So there's the really beautiful way of doing the proof. Okay, thanks.